Okay, SmackDown Lowdown. SmackDown opens with Vince McMahon coming out and basically beating the crap out of a ring announcer for not saying the best in the world. Shane McMahon with enough vigor. It takes him 3 tries. He gets kind of beat up after all of them. He's really working on that heel thing. He's got the classic SmackDown heel outfit on, which right now is like a black shirt and a black leather jacket. If you wear that on SmackDown, you're probably a heel. It's that simple. And what they maybe didn't learn, or I guess it didn't work for Charlotte, so maybe that's why they're just go ahead and use it as the heel uniform. Because when Becky did that, like it was huge. So, and maybe Shane as a heel will be huge in his own way. Shane as a heel tonight was entertaining in his own way. Anyway, he makes the ring announcer announce it a few times. He's wearing the standard heel uniform. The WrestleMania match is coming, basically. Aleister Black is about to come out, and Corey Graves makes a left-hand path reference, which is, I mean, for guys like me, I'm not super into, like, I think that's Entombed. I'm not super into that kind of, like, super aggressive buzzsaw. I mean, I've got the pedal. I've got the HM2 sitting around here somewhere. But anyway, it's a sound I like, but it's not like I would feel like a poser if I acted like I was some kind of black metal dude. But either way, I still thought that was kind of cool. And maybe Aleister really is some kind of black metal dude. Seems like he could be. And WWE has done their best to kind of capture a little bit of that with his entrance music, maybe. But anyway, we're getting an 8-man tag match between Aleister Black and Ricochet and the Hardy Boys in a group together against Rusev and Nakamura and the Bar in a group together. And Nakamura and Aleister Black start the match off with a little bit of a strong style-esque exchange. And it's really fun to watch. And Matt Hardy comes in and he looks like a whole different person. And the Hardy Boys have a couple nice little tandem offense spots. And eventually the other side begins to get their licks in, though, and this becomes kind of an all-around, very entertaining match to watch between, honestly, 6 of the better dudes in the company. I'm not a big fan of the Bar. I find that Sheamus is boring and Cesaro is goofy. That's just kind of how I feel about those guys. I don't know why. I know Sheamus has been a threat as a singles competitor at different points in time in his career. I'm not trying to say anything bad about the dude. It's just not my preference. And same thing with Cesaro. Just not my preference. But it's a fun match, and it should be with who you have in there. It should be a fun match, and it is. Ricochet's second entrance into the match begins with, a flurry. He's a house of fire, as they say, and it's against Rusev. And eventually, though, Rusev gets his and knocks Ricochet was trying to get up on the top rope from the apron, and literally on the top rope, kind of like AJ Styles does with the Phenomenal Forearm. And Rusev interrupted whatever Ricochet was about to do with a kick. It sent Ricochet off the apron and to the side of the ring. And I really like this match, and I'm starting to watch a little bit more and try to understand a little bit more the way New Japan does their stories, like their long-term booking over there, where you get all these 6-man tag matches and if somebody pins the champ in a 6-man tag match, then maybe they're going to get a title shot down the line, or if somebody pins like a guy who's like a number one contender, like they treat it a little bit more like there's a contender system. It seems, I could be speaking out of turn. I'm not trying to put my foot in my mouth, so please forgive me if you're like a huge NJPW guy and you're like, no, dude, you got it all friggin' wrong. I very well might. I'm trying, because I really do find it to be very interesting in-ring product to watch, and I want a little bit of sizzle to go with my steak, and I'm trying to learn how the sizzle works over there. And and I kind of like it. And it seems like a match like this is kind of meant to do that sort of thing, And the New Day, they eventually, though, will, because I've been harsh on like these multi-man tag matches and stuff like that before. Like, what are they doing? It's not like there's an 8-man tag belt. Why are these men doing this other than to just put on a good show? But I mean, for the story, like, what sense does it make? And now I'm kind of starting to come over to these things can mean something in a story, and we'll get to more of that later. I think this topic is maybe a little bit more of a relevant interjection into the next tag match in the night, but it doesn't matter either way, because we're talking about the tag team belt contention as well here, and this match does or could have had an effect on that. Had the New Day not come out and gotten revenge on Nakamusev and everybody, really, they knocked everybody out of the match, but they seemed to focus most of their ire on the heel group. We obviously had a face team with the Hardys, Ricochet, and Aleister Black. Ricochet was great in this match too, but we had the face team, the Hardys, Ricochet, and Aleister Black, and we had the heel team with Cesaro and Sheamus and Nakamura and Rusev, right? And the New Day, when they came in, they focused most of their energy on Nakamura and Rusev. It's difficult to recap the match because there was so much going on, and if you didn't watch it, you really should. This match is a good reason to watch this episode of SmackDown. It was a lot of fun. You could probably just find it on YouTube or something, or it's about halfway, or not halfway through, about maybe 20 or 30 minutes into the show. If you go on to the YouTube, or not YouTube, the Hulu app, excuse me, and you use Hulu at all, you just kind of, fast forward 30 minutes. You didn't used to be able to, but you can now on WWE stuff on Hulu, which is great, because there's been times where I've started something and or saw live half of it, but didn't see the other half, and I want to catch some of what happened in the other half on Hulu, but I got to watch the whole first half of the show. That's infuriating. Again, as far as I know, only with the WWE stuff was like that. Nothing else I watch on there was, but now that's been changed, and that's great. So you can probably fast forward right to this match and check it out yourself, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Randy Orton comes out, and in a way he elocutes a point that I've always been a little bit curious about, which is, how is SmackDown the house that AJ Styles built when he's only been around a short time in comparison to other people who are currently on the show and have held high esteem and high status in the show, namely Randy friggin' Orton, right? So that's basically what Randy comes out and says. And then AJ comes out and says, well, I started in, and he also kind of ribs AJ for being in the independents and stuff like that. And AJ comes out and says, well, yeah, I was in the independents and I had to work my way to this point. And, I didn't have my dad to give me a job and stuff. And then Randy says, well, you and your independent buddies seem to be ripping people off an awful lot. And he throws up one of these, and just because of the Bullet Club, And then AJ says, well, take a look around. And my independent buddies are all over the place in this locker room. And so there seems to be a match coming between those two at WrestleMania. And I'm sure you can see the joy on my face. I like watching both of these guys wrestle. I'm not a big AJ Styles fan just of his personality and stuff, which is a shame because I like just about everything else about him. Like a lot of Americans who are wrestling fans who maybe get a little bit tired of the WWE, but also are a little bit ignorant, right? I'm starting within the last year or so to have this burgeoning interest in Japanese pro wrestling, and AJ Styles was over there. And I, of course, think Bullet Club is cool. A lot of the New Japan stuff that I've watched, a lot of the guys, before I even knew what the Bullet Club really was, a lot of the guys, turned out that a lot of the guys I like to watch in WWE and a lot of the guys I actually really like, and everybody who from not everybody, certainly not everybody, but a handful of guys that I really like from the New Japan matches that I watched they were all involved with Bullet Club. So that was something I thought was pretty cool. And AJ Styles is, of course, a former leader of the Bullet Club. I should like him. I just don't. But that said, the dude is just a fantastic ring worker. And I prefer Randy Orton. I'm not going to lie. I prefer Randy. And I prefer AJ's style, too, which is funny. AJ's style. But I do. AJ's style of wrestling, I prefer to Randy's style of wrestling. I just prefer Randy's character and Randy's look too. Randy looks dangerous from the way he presents himself. I'm not just talking about his muscles or whatever. Like the way he presents himself, he looks like a dangerous dude. AJ Styles looks like he can't decide whether he is trying to look like Keith Urban or what, man. I don't know. Like he's got that really well manicured, stops like right here, beard. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I have significant stubble that goes all the way down to here. And when I've grown a beard in the past, I trim up around here a little bit, around my Adam's apple just a little bit. But for the most part, I let my beard grow in down here too because because I let it get kind of long when I do let it go. And it looks weird if you're shaved under here. It looks strange. And honestly, AJ Styles' beard looks strange too. He's a big, bad professional wrestler, supposed to be a bad man, and he's got this Rascal Flatts beard. I just don't. Anyway, though, they're just awesome workers in the ring. Their moves, there's just so much that could happen with those two in a WrestleMania match between the two of them. That fits I've been looking forward to Mania just because it's Mania and for the sake of good matches and interesting things going on, and a match between the two of them fits the bill. We get Sonya versus Asuka. Sonya slips on the ring skirt because Mandy got hit by Asuka by accident instead of Sonya, and in the process of going down or trying to get back up, manipulated the ring skirt a little bit, and that caused Sonya to trip, which caused Asuka to be able to catch her over by the ropes and get her into a submission. It was a little bit cheap, and Asuka gets the win. And again, it seems like we're setting up for a split of this tag team here, or at least maybe a run back of what we had been seeing in the middle of the year, the middle of the last year or so, between Sasha and Bayley, maybe from like July to October or something, or maybe it was earlier in the year than that. But there was a few month period where they were like going to couples therapy and stuff. I mean, I'm sure you guys remember this. I think something similar is coming here, and it kind of seemed like they were trying to make it look like Sonya and Mandy were an actual couple too, which again, could play on the potential drama on the show a lot more. It just seems a little chintzy. And again, just kind of playing off of that Mandy is attractive and Sonya is a lesbian. And I don't have any problem with that. Like, I'm happy that we've gotten to a place in wrestling where, I mean, I don't know how to say this delicately. With the general wrestling crowd, probably it's easy to maybe exploit that, is what I'm getting at. But I'm glad that really they haven't, and I kind of hope that they don't. And I kind of feel like shipping her or whatever with Mandy Rose is just kind of, unless it's really happening in real life, and there's some rumor that it might be. Unless it's really happening in real life, I don't think we, and even then, I don't think we need it in the product, because it just feels like they're going to exploit it. But again, I don't have a problem with there being gay characters and with there being those stories featured in the show. I really don't. And if somebody out there feels better, if they are, and this is just kind of what it seems like right now, and they might not do this at all. If they do end up kind of presenting those two as a couple, and it's not true, but it still helps somebody who's like an LGBTQ wrestling fan out there feel more accepted by the industry, then it's worth it, I guess. But to me, it still feels a little bit like there's a real danger for it to be just an exploitive thing. Anyway, Becky Lynch ditches her crutch on her way out to the ring. I don't know if the WWE cameraman purposely picked out beforehand, scouted out every single, 7 to 13-year-old girl in the audience wearing a The Man t-shirt. But either way, there were a lot of them, and they all got featured during Becky's entrance, which is kind of cool. I like that. I like that. When I was a kid, if you were a girl who liked wrestling, and this is, again, kind of what the Sonya and Mandy and why some of that I don't like, I try not to be overly judgmental about it. But when I was a kid, if you were a girl and you liked wrestling, there wasn't much other than, if you were going to take the example of what you saw, your sexuality would be the only thing that you thought that you had to offer to the world of professional wrestling. And that's, if you ask me, sad. Very sad. And that's why I like Becky Lynch so much. I'm not trying to act like Becky's not pretty. She's gorgeous. But her character doesn't have to be, and doesn't rely on that. Not the way that Mandy's does, right? Not even friggin' close. They're miles apart in that regard. Some people might say that Becky's not the greatest in-ring worker, and she's definitely not the worst either. And we've had great champions that weren't the greatest wrestlers, especially in the WWE, where the story is at least 50% of what you should be in it for, because it's at least 50% of what you're being given, right? And in that sense, Becky's awesome. And I think she's the most over person in the company right now, because that half is so working, and the in-ring stuff is way more than adequate to really get behind her and really cheer for her. So, so I like that. I like that if I had a daughter, I don't have any kids, but if I had a daughter right now who was 10 years old and she wanted to watch wrestling, there might be some things that I wouldn't necessarily want her to see. But I think for the most part, the message is there that these girls are just as heroic and athletic, and everything else is the boys. So anyway, Charlotte comes out. She cuts a promo on Becky. Becky cuts one right back. We get a tag match. And this is kind of what I was talking about with that NJPW, from what I understand, way of kind of determining contenders within multi-man tag matches or tag matches with tag teams that aren't traditional tag teams. Because so we get Truth and Mysterio versus Joe and Andrade. And the match ends, it was a decent little match with Mysterio pinning Joe, and a lot of chatter by the WWE commentary team about whether this means that Mysterio should get a title shot now, which seems, again, to kind of harken to, I mean, they did this in the Attitude Era too, kind of, if I remember correctly, where if you pin the champion in a match, a non-championship match, you're probably going to get a title shot. And either way, this upsets Joe enough that he takes out everybody, not Mysterio because he's gotten the hell out of there by now, but he takes out Truth, and then rolls over and takes out Andrade. And I wouldn't have liked a match like that at one point in time, because Mysterio and Truth aren't a tag team. Samoa Joe is a singles champion, and him and Andrade are not a tag team. And I would have thought that match doesn't drive us anywhere. And I think that's just ignorance on my part a little bit. And I see other fans complain about it too. And I think we kind of need to give them a little bit of a break on some of this stuff. I'm starting to come around on it. And not just because it's something they do in Japan, but because like there's another wrestling YouTuber out there, and I wish I knew his name. It was just a video that came up in like a recommended videos for me, and I watched it. And he was kind of explaining how they do, like the differences. If you're a Western wrestling fan, what are the differences if you wanted to go watch NJPW? And I think it's Wrestling Rantin, and he's great. He's fantastic. I really like to listen to him. I try to make sure I keep away from current stuff until after I've made my videos. Like Wrestling with Regret is another great channel. And he does like a segment where he does who wore it better, and it's like SmackDown versus Raw, and which show was better for the week. And it's a fantastic segment. And once I finish this video, I'm going to go watch it and see what he thought about Raw and SmackDown this week and WWE this week. So I watch all these guys too, and this guy, he really laid out this Wrestling Rantin. He really laid out how NJPW treats booking and feuding and storyline and stuff like that differently, and just made it so plainly obvious how valuable these random 6-man tag matches and random tag team pairings can be to the overall product and the overall story. Like he really did. It kind of opened my eyes to, wow, that makes a lot of sense, and that's kind of a cool way to do it, and that keeps us from seeing the same singles match every week, or it allows you to see multiple contenders in action at once without having to have it spread out over 4 weeks to get everybody a singles match involved while still having a show. Like, I don't know. It makes a lot of sense, and I'm coming around to it. Then we get another tag match, kind of the same format. Again, we get a tag match between Kevin Owens and Mustafa Ali against Rowan and Daniel Bryan. Excuse me. And this is a fairly entertaining match with some callbacks to Sunday. Everybody still, I think, is more waiting to see what's going on with Kofi at this point, because the crowd seems kind of dead during a lot of it, which is a shame, because it really is a good match. And we see Erick Rowan. He slams Mustafa Ali to the mat. I mean, he just slammed him from I forget what it's called. Erick Rowan grabs your face. and like lifts you up and slams you. It looks like a choke slam, looks just like a choke slam in action, full speed, but it's not. Anyway, so that's that. No big shakeup involved there. Where from the last tag match, we maybe have an argument that Mysterio deserves a title shot. Nobody has that argument coming out of this. The New Day and Vince McMahon, which is good because we already have one lined up. The New Day and Vince McMahon are arguing in the ring for a while about whether Kofi is deserving of a title shot. Vince at one point in time tells Kofi that he's going to go to the Hall of Fame, but he's not going to go to the Hall of Fame as a solo competitor. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame as a part of the New Day, and that's the only way he deserves to be involved in it. Kofi takes all of this really well, seems to be dealing with it, very honorably. And then Vince eventually is like, well, you can have your WrestleMania match, your WrestleMania title match, but you're going to have to go through another gauntlet. And it's both members of the Bar, Randy Orton, both members of the Bar, Randy Orton. I mean, there's 5 dudes, and I can't remember who all of them are. It's pretty imposing. I mean, we all know what's going to happen. Kofi's going to be just fine. At the end of the show ends with Kofi and the New Day actually, all these guys, all 5 guys who are going to be in the gauntlet match, and I feel like an idiot for not being able to remember all of them. All 5 guys are running right in to the ring to like start some stuff. Kofi and the New Day actually dispatch all of them and are standing strong at the end, and Kofi's beating his chest saying, come get it, let me have it. So that's next week on SmackDown. And I'm SmackDown's been good. Raw's been up and down. I didn't appreciate this week's Raw as much as I appreciated the previous week's Raw. It wasn't a bad show. SmackDown was just, a better show, if you ask me, and it has been fairly consistently for a while, and we're back to that. But that's okay. The road to WrestleMania is well underway. I think we've got something like 20 days left or 26 days left or something, and it's not long at all. And we've got some stuff bubbling and brewing up, and all in all, I don't have a problem with where either show is going right now. So, all right, I will see you guys soon.